Next up, is it my turn? Is it your turn?
You're up, brother.
All right.
And we welcome you to your Wilk and Wiss Week 7 recap, getting you up to date on all the Utah athletes in the National Football League, how they did in Week 7. I am co-manager Tanner Wilkinson, co-manager Cole Wissinger.
What's up?
It's hoodie season, Cole. It's sweater weather.
That's right. And for you, it's Arizona Cardinal hat season
It was a
because
good night.
we just finished ESPN Plus Monday Night Football.
Yeah, kind of a weird game.
Appropriate for ESPN Plus, I would think.
Tell me it was on ESPN Plus without telling me that it's on
There
ESPN
you go.
Plus. On the opening drive, Arizona throws a pick, and James Conner goes Tyler Algier and punches the ball out, and we recover. That was the whole game, just bizarre.
Herbert
Arizona
gets it to, it was Jalen Reagor or some just absolute bust that you didn't know was even in the NFL anymore. Perfect dime, gets all the way to the end zone until popped out.
Starling Thomas. Yeah. A weird game. Connor had a ball punched out from him. Arizona recovered that. But so, yeah, kind of weird. Kind of a weird one. But we'll get to that. Well, I've got some thoughts on that. We'll get to that.
Good. We'll save the best for last.
Yeah. Let's get to Thursday Night Football. The Denver Broncos just came in and did really what they were supposed to do against a very banged up New Orleans team. You could argue the Saints are as banged up as maybe the Niners, if not more, because their depth isn't as good as the Niners, so it's more damaging. Denver wins 33-10. Devon Vele had a catch for 20 yards. Cody Barton, very early, it hasn't been often this year where we've had a Thursday night guy be a candidate for player of the week or MVP of the week, but Cody Barton certainly that. 8 tackles, a sack, a pass deflection, quarterback hit, and a fumble return for a touchdown. Jonah Ellis, 2 tackles and half a sack as well with a quarterback hit, and Jamal Williams for New Orleans, just 3 carries, 17 yards. By the way, Rashid Shaheed did have season-ending surgery, so bummer because he was fun.
I think as of Thursday, we knew that he wasn't going to be playing, but we didn't know the extent. And then by the time we had finished recording, we don't get to talk about Rashid Shaheed for the end of the season. And so there's been a lot of injuries. There's always a lot of injuries. I hesitate to say more or less than average or whatever, but impacting our show right now, seeing having Puka being out almost the entirety of our program. Now, no Rashid Shaheed, just a lot of guys that we're used to talking about each and every week.
Well, Jordan Love missed some time. Taron Johnson missed a lot of time early in the season. Luckily, those guys are back. Devin Lloyd's missed some time. Matt Gay, even some of our special teams guys have missed time this year. So Jalen Warren missing time. Kyle Van Noy should have missed time. Don't know how that didn't happen, but anyway, yeah, kind of weird.
He's Superman. All right, you talked about Devin Lloyd. Let's go early morning Sunday. Jacksonville gets the win over New England. We all picked Jacksonville here. The sky was falling after their first London game. They stick around and they get to bring everyone home on the plane with them because they beat a team that they should pick. They should beat. Devin Lloyd, 11 tackles, a sack, tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. And New England's defense surprisingly struggling. The way that all the advanced metrics were leading you to believe the last year's defense was super, super good. They haven't been able to carry it over with this new coaching staff. And yeah, they let Matthew Judon go to greener pastures, and they seem like they're as a team preparing for the future more. And Gerard Mayo was pretty upfront in using the word rebuild or whatever. Like, you don't hear coaches say that very often, but they are very much in that rebuilding mode. But Drake May looks good.
Yeah, Drake May, that was a good game for him against a team that, Jacksonville's defense hasn't been anything to write home about either. So it's not like he was facing a ton of pressure the whole game or anything. He had some good sets and good throws. So yeah, some things to like there. Your Sunday morning slate, Seattle defeats Atlanta 34-14. Kind of interesting there. Tyler Algier, 5 carries, 36 yards. Caden Ellis, 9 tackles, 2 QB hits. Clark Phillips also had a tackle for Atlanta. This kind of just went the way I thought. I thought Seattle was due a win. Atlanta was kind of due a loss. That's just kind of what happened.
Yeah, and my pick for Seattle to be a wild card at this point might be looking strong that they might win the whole division, but we will get to that. Buffalo wins against Tennessee. Talk about doing the things we thought they should do. Buffalo was in hazy territory at the beginning of this game, but poured it on late and never a doubt. 34-10. Dalton Kincaid had 3 catches for 52. Taron Johnson, 7 tackles, and broke up a pass.
Yeah, loved the Amari Cooper edition, and that's I think only going to get better with time. Uh, Amazing what happens when a how shall I put this? Good human being is a quarterback for Amari Cooper. Doesn't have an
That's our next
Achilles
game.
doesn't have an Achilles heel per se in his personal life.
Yeah.
So Cincinnati beats Cleveland, and Deshaun
Yep.
Watson got what he deserved. Like, I'm never for injuries, like ever. And even, Stefanski was very upset about this after the game. There were people in the Cleveland crowd happy. Now, I think the Cleveland fans, some of them might be happy for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
right? That he was playing poorly, not that he's a disgusting person. Either way, Cincinnati wins. Cleveland looked a lot better with Jameis Winston. Dorian Thompson Robinson wasn't really the answer either. We at least know what Jameis Winston is at this point, so I get why you go maybe with DRT, but
I don't. I think this was hubris. Early before the game, this is the first time Jameis Winston hasn't been the immediate backup, and it's because all the noise from the fans in the last couple games calling for Jameis to be the backup. They make him quote unquote inactive as their emergency third quarterback in this game, and I think that it was the cockiness and put the pedal to the metal of this front office, whoever's making the decision that Deshaun Watson had to be the guy, saying, no, we're not going to have you want Jameis Winston in because we're just saying Jameis isn't even available. But then they did actually need him for a legitimate reason after Watson gets injured, and they lose this winnable game. Cincinnati is
yeah,
still not put together right now. And Cleveland with Jameis the whole time could have beaten
yeah.
this weakened Cincinnati team, but they do it to themselves, and I expect Jameis to be the starter next week.
Yeah, Zach Moss, 3 catches, 33 yards. Yeah, Ryan Rico punted 8 times, and Cincinnati won the football game. 8 punts, and we know Cincinnati's defense is not good. 8 punts, 354 yards, 4 inside the 20, and a long of 58 for the former Cougar.
And no more Deshaun Watson for this year, and fingers
Well,
crossed ever.
yeah. Oof.
Next game up, Green Bay 24, Houston 22. It's a lower score than we normally talk about, a back and forth, exciting kind of game, but this was one of the games of the morning slate, and it lived up to it. Jordan Love, 24-33, 220 passing, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Zane Anderson had a tackle, and Dalton Schultz over on the Houston side, 1 reception, 28 yards.
Which led Houston, arguably the worst game of CJ Stroud's career, and yet they were in it. I think that goes to show D'Amico Ryans, like just the whole team vibe that they've got, even with a loud Stephon Diggs, who's not the best teammate that we are aware of. But like this team's very bought into each other and are willing to pick up pieces when others fall. The Green Bay defense, I don't think, is getting enough chat, Cole. Like they're legit.
I would like to talk more about Houston's offensive line performance and the way that they blitzed the heck out and got the pressure on CJ Stroud. The Green Bay defense has been up and down like during the course of the season. They took advantage of an opportunity here. And if Houston's offense isn't what we thought they would be, it is. I put the entirety of the blame on the offensive line. They overperformed because they were just so historically ravaged by injuries last year. And so people thought, experts thought, I personally thought that the offensive line would perform much better, just get a little bit of regression to the mean, like positive regression. And it has not. They're playing about the same as they were last year with guys off the street. It's not helping out CJ Stroud and Tank Dell, one of my favorite dudes.
Yeah,
0
got me a
just
goose
on the
egg.
day.
Yeah, which luckily didn't matter in our guillotine league this week. I need to check that. It was close tonight. It was kind of obvious heading into the night who was going to get out, but it got close there at the end. So we'll have to check that. Indy beats Miami. Game with not good quarterback play at all. 16-10. You have a stat you'd like to share in a moment. Julian Blackmon finishes with 9 tackles for the Colts. Matt Gay, 3 for 3 on field goals with a long of 52, along with an extra point. Tyler Huntley goes out injured. The quarterback issue continues for Miami, or at least it did. Sounds like Tua's going to practice this week, which is very big news because they're playing Arizona next week in South Florida. Huntley goes 7 of 13 for 87 yards and a score. Like Tyler Huntley wasn't looking awful, but
then one of the one of just the historically bad quarterbacks that has somehow continued to get chances in this league, Mr. Tim Boyle, came in, played the rest of the game. The Dolphins lose, of course, and Tim Boyle's teams now that he plays for are an astounding 0 and 10 when he throws a pass. It's getting close to that historic. There's a couple other guys that are winless with 10-ish losses. He's getting close to being just one of the worst quarterbacks ever. And we talked about that last year with the New York Jets because you pull Zach Wilson, our guy. He has to be our guy. He's a Utah guy, but
Yeah.
our guy. Um, the Jets situation, fun to talk about this year also. But
Oh,
anyway, the Jets of last year put in Tim Boyle. Look, no one is worse than Tim Boyle. There's no way you pull Zach Wilson for Tim Boyle. There's no way you pull anyone in this league for Tim. You don't pull Deshaun Watson for Tim Boyle unless you're considering the moral ramifications of your decisions. Like Tim Boyle is truly the worst quarterback in the league.
like how do you not have another option? Is what we're saying here. Like there's whale poop and then there's Tim Boyle. I mean, just ugh.
I'm pretty sure he was the Black Friday quarterback, throws up the Hail Mary, and it gets
Yes.
pick sixth. For, by the way, the Dolphins, who he's now on their team.
You think, yeah, Mike McDaniel is a smart guy. You think that would have been written down somewhere.
Oh, talk about going from one side of the spectrum to the other. A good game that lived up to it again.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions 31 over the previously unbeaten Minnesota Vikings 29. Tim Patrick still showing up, still finding a way, place in this offense. 2 receptions for 25 yards, and then Sione Vake had a tackle both on the Detroit side of things.
Yeah, I think Tim Patrick's got a great role. That doesn't have to do a lot, but Jared Goff really likes him in certain situations. He's a big target, carving out a nice role there. This game went kind of
And
like how I thought. This was just a fun football game. Great red zone game, by the way. Between this and
absolutely.
Green Bay being and Houston being on at the same time, kind of those two back and forth was a lot of fun.
NFC North in general is a lot of fun. Yeah, Detroit
Mm.
loses Josh Reynolds in the offseason, the big target that Jared Goff had last year. So they bring in Tim Patrick. Takes him a while to get kind of ramped up because he's had injury concerns in the past. And now with Jameson Williams being suspended because of performance enhancing drugs, it's either gambling
Mm.
or a best tweet of this that I've seen is he now has a 0% chance of making the Baseball Hall of Fame because he has issues with gambling and also steroids. Yeah, and he's a football
R.I.P.
player.
Pete Rose, but yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so Jameson Williams is out, which means there's going to be more opportunity in the Lions offense. And we know Jared Goff completes passes. Why not to Tim Patrick?
It's interesting. I completely missed that with Jameson. Was that today?
Yeah.
That was announced. I don't know how I missed that, but
I think
I certainly did.
what I saw was a 2-game suspension. I'll double check during our next
Yeah,
thing.
that's fascinating. Do have him in a few leagues. I don't think I'm a contender in any of those leagues, but anyway. No, the afternoon was really boring. For as good as the morning was, these games were just not good. I actually I'm going to be honest, I took a nap during these games because I just didn't really care. Wrapping up the morning though, Philadelphia beats New York 28-3. Saquon Barkley outgains his old team by himself. Are the Giants? Where do the Giants rank among worst front offices? No Utah connections in this game, but that's what spoke. There were Giants fans upset at Saquon. No, man, go protest outside the team's practice facility, outside the team offices. Like if you're that upset, I don't know, man.
We alluded to this in the preseason show where we talked about where's the blame lie with Brian Daboll, and we both like him, but you're gonna need to bring in a new quarterback because Daniel Jones ain't it, even when sometimes he's it. And they put in Drew Lock in this game, and I don't think that's the last time we're gonna see him during the course of this season. But just everything else around New York is a mess. You talked about James Conner a lot, the Pennsylvania connections with Saquon from Penn State and then James Conner from Pitt. It was a good week to be those running backs.
Absolutely.
No Utah connections in our next afternoon game. Also, it's the Rams 20, Las Vegas Raiders 15. Kind of surprised it was this close by the end of it, but that's what we all predicted. Since we don't have any Utah connections to talk about in this game, let's talk about our picks, where we have a new leader in the clubhouse for the $25 Visa gift card, Joe Williams.
Oh,
we
Papa
talked about
Joe.
He's been good in the pick'em.
Yes.
He forgot to slot in his picks 1 week officially, but we have him on the show. We got that record, and he
Yeah,
went 12-3, doing better than your 11-4 and my 10-5 on this week specifically. And Joe's the guy to beat.
that's awesome, man. Way to go, Joe. Uh, have to keep an eye on that for him. That's awesome. Jacob Habel has finally been dethroned after 2 years.
First time in
He
two
he will
seasons of the
not
show.
he will not be getting that $25, which is ironic. That Joe and Habel knew each other long before the two of us knew either of them. So that's kind of
Right.
ironic.
Couple Snow College guys.
Yeah, that's right. Washington beats Carolina 40-7. Even with Jaden Daniels getting hurt in the opening quarter, rib injury. It's week to week. It's not serious, so Commander fans can take a breather. That's how bad the Panthers are. Bobby Wagner 6 tackles. Michael Davis 1 tackle for Washington.
In our dynasty league that we'll talk about every so often, I have Andy Dalton, and it's worked, to varying effect. Going up against one of the worst defenses in football, I started him over Sam Darnold. Andy Dalton had less than 1 point
Yeah,
cumulatively, and a fantasy football change and a new rule that I've proposed a few times is that quarterbacks lose even more points if it's a pick six. And in that case, Andy Dalton would have been even more negative because he let a defensive lineman go pick six on him. Messy game, and Bryce Young comes in, for a second and a half, and Carolina is New York. The New York Giants are not in a good place. Also, the New York Jets are not in a good place. Carolina is in the worst place.
yeah.
That is football purgatory right now in the
It,
NFL.
it's bad. Oh, it's just bad.
The best place, the good place, it's to be a Chiefs fan.
Is it the
And
good place?
Joe
If we
Williams
we,
for the
we could
Chiefs fans.
we could get into this from that sitcom if we really needed to go down another rabbit hole. But
Uh-huh. But only undefeated in the NFL, and even when your offense is not sexy, it is efficient and it doesn't ruin games for you, which it seems like every other offense in football has done at least once or twice this season. Kansas City gets the win in the Super Bowl rematch. The 49ers are now in the hole. They have a losing record on the season. 28-18, the final score. Fred Warner did his part, 8 tackles. Mitch Wishnowsky, 4 punts, 193 net yards. 3 were down inside the 20 with a long of 51. But, 4 punts is kind of your highlight for the San Francisco offense because now they're down to the bare bones of their team with a lot of
oh my
injuries and no more
gosh,
Ayuk for the season.
Ayuk's done. Debo's in the hospital with pneumonia. I did catch that today.
And your healthiest receiver was shot in the offseason. It's Ricky Pearsall.
Juwan Jennings is hurt. George Kittle is hurt.
McCaffrey is still
McCaffrey's
mysteriously hurt.
yeah. This is weird. I'm not complaining that the Niners are struggling. Don't like
Yeah,
seeing guys hurt, but just
as we
this
mentioned
overall
before,
struggle.
there's only one injury that we will stunt on, and we
Sure.
already got a chance to. But
Yeah.
the 49ers, this is just downright unlucky. And we
Right.
both kind of predicted a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover and a come down. Not in this way, though. This is kind of the ugly way for it to happen.
Well, here's the thing, Cole. They're third in the division after tonight. Seattle's won. Arizona has the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head at 3-4. So, yeah, I thought Fred did play really well though, which sucks for him that he's still been that consistent, constant for them. But remember when there was the debate about whether or not Kansas City should pay Chris Jones? Yeah, let's throw all of that onto freezing cold takes on Twitter because, man, that guy alone, him and Steve Spagnuolo don't get enough credit. Maybe Chris Jones does, but Steve Spagnuolo should never be a head coach again. Let me make that very clear. The man is meant to be a coordinator. He is Rob Ryan, Rex, you know.
Mm-hmm. Wade Phillips also was that
Wait.
guy.
Yes. Okay. You stole it right out of my mouth. That's what I was just going to say. But man, can that guy call a defense and just put guys in position? I mean, they've had injuries on defense too. It's not just the Hollywood Brown injuries or the Rashee Rice, Pacheco, these guys, they've had some holes on defense too. They've played some young guys that.
And they lose Snead in the offseason to one of the biggest contracts. And he hasn't been doing anything over in
No.
Tennessee. And they've had next man up in Kansas City immediately.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff. Frustrating if you don't like the Chiefs, but God, man, Spagnuolo knows what he's doing. Andy Reid knows what he's doing. Yeah. Well, sir, I think we're I'm going to enjoy talking about this because I was genuinely very
Yes.
happy for you on Sunday night. Pittsburgh defeats the New York Jets 37-15. 34 unanswered to end the game. Was it 15-3 at one point,
Yes.
if I remember right? Jalen Warren, 12 carries, 44 yards, looked a lot more like himself. And Lecky Fotu had 3 tackles for the Jets, finally getting into the box score. Here's what I'm going to say, Cole, before I turn it over to a Steelers fan.
Yes.
A lot of people wrote Russ off, and it's one game. It's one game. There's still a lot of football left to be played. Okay. A
And they
lot
were
of people.
still writing him off after the first half.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely,
mhm.
absolutely. And I didn't get to watch the first half. Was watching some WNBA finals action. Watched pretty much the whole second half though, and you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Carson Palmer in Arizona. Everyone had
Hmm.
written Carson Palmer off, right? Was awful in Oakland. I mean, just completely a disaster with the Raiders. And then comes to Arizona with a coach that believed in him, got his mind right. I don't know, man. That's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from Russell Wilson.
That's a good comparison because Carson Palmer wanted his way out of his first and original and beloved home in Cincinnati. That last year in Cincinnati, the talk was Carson Palmer just trying to get out. That was Russ in Seattle and that friction.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to an in-between place where they don't get you, but they bought into you based on your previous reputation and paid too much, and it was disappointing. And then it's that post-hype where you get a chance to just ball again.
Yep.
And Russ might be, and I still am not convinced that Russ is the long term answer
Sure.
because the Steelers' offensive line is probably not going to play this well. And to do it against the Jets defense is really impressive because you have looked bad against much worse defensive fronts
Mm.
already in this season. But the offensive line came together, allowed Russ a little bit of chance. It wasn't just, Justin Fields having to run on every play, and Russ doesn't have he doesn't have the wheels anymore to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that. But 37-15, and for varying off the field and on the field reasons, to watch in the same Sunday the Browns implode with their chosen quarterback and Aaron Rodgers specifically continue to just fall apart as and this is a conversation, this is something I love asking just sports fans in general, is if you could change and flip just one game in your fandom, in your chosen team's history, what would that one game be? What's the one loss that maybe hurts the most? Or what was, it came down to one drive and you can just go, flap of a butterfly's wings and
Mm.
change the outcome. What for one thing, one game? And for me, it's the 2010 Super Bowl. It's the fact that Aaron Rodgers, that is his only Super Bowl victory. If I could go back and give Ben a third and Aaron Rodgers still has 0 on his board, that's that one thing that I would change in the history of the Steelers. And so just to watch Aaron Rodgers struggle and the Jets lose in this fashion to this specific Steelers team is fantastic.
It's
And
ironic.
also for our Utah connections, the Steelers special teams also made a play again. It wasn't Miles Killebrew specifically, but he's the captain, and
Right.
just to see the special teams coordinator and everyone get together, and just this is a team that
Yeah.
loves each other, and they got a big field goal block that in the end didn't matter because you win by double digits. But
Well, that's why Mike Tomlin said, he's well compensated. That was his answer because he was criticized for picking Russ over Justin Fields this week.
mm-hmm.
It's interesting you bring that up because I was very adamantly rooting against Pittsburgh in that Super Bowl because back then I liked Aaron Rodgers. I thought he had a decent work ethic. I loved Greg Jennings. Greg Jennings was my
Jennings is
second.
cool. Yes.
Yeah. And he was right about a lot of things, by the way. We could go on about that for a very long time. That's a whole other
Mm-hmm.
rabbit hole. But aside from Larry Fitzgerald, Greg Jennings might be my second favorite receiver of all time, just from my watching days. But hey, man, if I could go back, and Santonio Holmes would just be a little bit further
Oh yeah,
outside the end zone.
I know
mean,
that that's it.
that's kind of the irony of bringing that up because I was so adamantly rooting against Pittsburgh because of what they had previously done to
Because they
my
hurt you,
team in
and
the
so
Super
now I
Bowl.
root against Aaron Rodgers because he has hurt me.
Well, and Aaron, yeah, you want to go down the rabbit hole of just not good people. Aaron kind of has become, and it's crazy because I used to love the guy. He was my favorite quarterback to watch for years, and now I actively root against him. So
Comes out in his
it's
first words in the
fascinating.
press conference are the media is the worst thing about that's what's holding down the New York Jets.
Yeah, darn it all. Let me tell you something. This week, you know what I bet they could do to make the team better? They could build a new Taco Bell inside of Devontae Adams' new apartment. That's probably what their big announcement's going to be this week. You fire a coach, you bring in a new offensive weapon. Let's
Make
build a
Randall
taco.
Cobb his roommate in there with Taco Bell.
Let's make a taco. Let's put a Taco Bell. That'll solve all our problems. Baja Blast does solve a lot of problems, by the way. Anyway, let's get to Monday, Cole. What the early game was kind of wonky as well. Looked like a runaway, and then still kind of was. Just
But
kind of
then
weird.
injury at the end of it
Ugh,
too.
yeah,
This is the Monday night doubleheader, and I had fully flipped over to Arizona Chargers and missed Godwin going out at the end of
same.
this game, but it was still double digits. Baltimore 41, Tampa Bay 31. Utah Connections, Marcus Williams, 3 tackles for the Ravens. Then KVN, 3 tackles, a sack, tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits.
Yeah, KVN doing it again. Hate to see that for Chris Godwin, a guy who's already had some injuries.
This has
Uh,
been his come around season,
I
right?
know.
Like he's been playing second fiddle to Mike Evans for forever. He's
I
he's
lo-
emerging,
I like Chris
and
Godwin a lot. Yeah,
Penn State
that's a
guy.
bummer. Yeah. And the recap of the final game of the night: the Cardinals hold the Chargers to 5 field goals, walk-off field goal from Chad Reimer, your backup kicker, because Matt Prater's out. I was nervous. I mean, even though he hit one to beat the Niners, to go ahead on the Niners, I'm like, there's no, like, this is it. Um, but the Cardinals win 17-15. Simi Fehoko had a really good night for the Chargers. 3 catches, 44. I was like a little happy inside every time he'd make a catch because he's got a great story. And then Alohi Gilman does have the 5 tackles for the Chargers. Arizona's run defense was spectacular. They knew what the Chargers wanted to do, and they said, look, you've been beating teams with J.K. Dobbins. We're not going to let you do that. We're going to make you beat us with Will Dissly. And at times, like, that would work. But then the drive would stall out. And eventually, Justin Herbert just has no help. Lad McConkey is going to be good eventually, I think, but not as your number one guy.
Yeah, ideally as a 2.
Right.
Exactly.
Ideally as a 2 or a 3 even. Arizona, I thought this was a great coaching job by Jonathan Gannon. Still some things to work. The lack of targets for Marvin Harrison and just the lack of involvement, not even targets, but just, I mean, Orlovsky and my mind just went blank here. Who was the other color? Oh my goodness, Louis Riddick.
Oh.
Yeah, it was Riddick
Yeah,
and
Louis
Orlovsky.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly the whole game. Why is Marvin not getting the football? Well, guess what? That's what Cardinal fans have been asking this whole season. There were a couple plays where he was wide open, but pressure got in. Kyler just had to get rid of it. That's something
He's doing
Arizona's got to
cardio.
fix.
You look at the advanced stats. He's down the field, just
Yeah.
waiting for it, and you can't turn it down every time. Like it
No,
can't just be an intentional decoy
that was the
all the
one.
time. And if it is, you got to reassess your offensive game plan.
If they had lost tonight, I would have really started questioning the OC moving forward because that's a game you absolutely should win, and they did win it. So, good thing we're 3-4. We got a good stretch coming up as a Cardinal fan. That makes me happy. So, again, be competitive this year. I'm not expecting a playoff berth or anything like that, but you're a half a game back in the division at this point. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see. So, well, Cole, who do you like this week? Yeah, for MVP.
I'm gonna probably start every week from now until the end of the season with Jordan Love. I showed a little bit of doubt of Jordan Love in the offseason. I wasn't sure, and the Packers are firmly just one of the great teams, not just in the NFC, not just in the NFC North, but in the whole NFL. And part of it is Jordan Love really establishing himself as one of the guys. Still throws 2 interceptions because he still has YOLO balls that he loves. That's okay because that's working, and in a win, we can sit there. A couple of the defensive efforts in low-scoring games, like Julian Blackmon was involved, right? But I think I'm going Jordan Love.
Okay. I'm over the tortilla thing, by the way. We've moved on. We've moved past that. I got a guilt text from my brother saying, I can't believe you picked Houston based on the tortillas. And I did, but I didn't. Like, I genuinely thought Houston was going to win.
It's not like you were picking Carolina over Washington just because of like
sure. No, this was a good game. Yeah. Cole, I'm going to go with Cody Barton though, man. Like Denver, this was big for Denver.
Yeah.
Sean Payton against his old team in his old stadium. Denver still got some things to figure out on offense. in terms of throwing the ball downfield, getting bigger plays. And you hope that'll come if you're a Broncos fan. You hope that eventually opens up more for Bo Nix. Get him some more weapons. I've got them. I think in the last 2 mocks I've done, I've had them taking a receiver in the first round because they just don't have that pure go-to guy. But like they've got solid running backs. Their offensive run game has gotten better. It seems like each week. But their defense has been somewhat solid all year, and Cody Barton has been a big part of that. Big free agent signing for them, and he scored a touchdown. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to give it to Cody Barton on that one. Utah fans need one good thing to talk about this week.
Well, and it's funny because I was going to compare this to BYU situation where they got that luxury of not playing perfectly, but getting the win also. And they
Yeah,
were against this wasn't even close, right? So
right.
BYU has coaching points. They see where they didn't do well, but they still get to be undefeated at the end of the day. And so Denver, yeah, that whole offense still needs something revolutionary to happen,
Yeah,
but you can make those coaching points after getting the win in the win column and getting closer to an actual wild card this year and not cratering like they
right,
very well could.
right. Well, I'm excited for this week's guest. I sent him a text tonight saying, please attend every Cardinals game going forward. He's my good friend Connor Henline. Went to a rival school. We didn't even know each other in high school, but he ended up marrying a girl I went to high school with, and he and I are basically the same person. Love the Jazz, love BYU football. He just happens to be a Browns fan. So this kind of came at a good time. He was he lives in Arizona now, at the Cardinals game tonight. Lot to talk about with the Browns on Thursday. So it's going to be a fun show come Thursday.
Love it. Can't wait.
My man, enjoy your Monday night. Enjoy your rest of your week, and we'll have a lot of football to talk about on Thursday.
Yeah, we got to root for primetime wins.
Yeah,
How
we
about
did. How
that?
about that? Back-to-back nights. It was weird having BYU play Friday and then have to wait till Monday for the Cardinals to play. Which there's a guy I've become friends with on Twitter who's a Chargers fan who tweeted this, like he tweeted, I was thinking this, and then he tweeted it on Sunday. He's like, this is really weird. I haven't watched my college team since Friday, but now I have to wait till Monday to watch my pro team. It was weird. It was a weird thing. But
And also because of fall break, we didn't have high school football to call on Friday. So sitting down and watching the BYU game in primetime felt like tomorrow was supposed to be
yeah.
Sunday. And then I got a whole Saturday in front of me.
Well,
It's
and
kind of nice.
I did 2 games last week. I did a game on Wednesday and Thursday. Just fall break kind of spread some of these high school teams out, and kind of interesting. So appreciate you,
Playoffs
my man.
now
It is high school playoffs.
Football.
Yeah. Yep. Gonna be fascinating. The postseason's here for that. Before you know it, college postseason will be here, and then we'll be talking NFL postseason.
Heck yeah.
He's Cole Wissinger. I'm Tanner Wilkinson. We'll see you all on Thursday. Thanks for tuning in to Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update of Utah athletes in the National Football League and you, the fans, and the big melting pot that is the state of Utah.